So we filmed actually in the Capitol. So we jumped on a call. I got to sit with the other producers online and with the graphic animator, and I got to like help them kind of,
Oh,
you
wow.
know, give input
Awesome.
and help put the scene together. So that was like amazing, you know.
Are there other names that haven't been released publicly of people that are in the film that you
Yeah,
know?
there are people that I had never heard of before, never seen any or heard anything about their stories that are in the film, getting in trouble for, they had their cameras out and filming, and people were trying to leak. People were actually trying to leak on Twitter as it was happening. So that
Really?
was a little entertaining because they figured it out really quick. They're like, we know somebody is videoing and we know who you are. And yeah.
I saw some photos of like an after party. I don't know if you're allowed to talk about it or if it's not the done thing or if you signed an NDA or something like that. I don't know. But what can you tell us anything about that? I mean, it looked like everybody was in, not everybody, but everybody that we know, that we've
Yeah.
seen on screen. All of these real huge names were all sort of in someone's living room. That was quite an exciting
Yeah,
photograph.
it was actually a bar and a hotel right outside of the theater. So yeah, we were invited there, and yeah, everybody was there. They had drinks and food. Actually, the night before the premiere, we were invited to Ernie Klein's house. Ernie Klein is the author of Ready Player One. So that's kind of what kicked it off, and that was amazing. We've got this united front now. It's like you have to prove that these people are lying now.
Yeah.
James Clapper and Marco Rubio and all these, Tim Burchett, and they're serious people doing serious work in positions of power.
I keep getting sent questions about the age of disclosure. When is it coming out? Who's in it? Is this going to be disclosure? What's it all about? Are there going to be new revelations? When is the premiere? What platform is it going to be on? And just lots and lots of questions. And I thought to try and address this, I know somebody who was in the film, who was at the premiere, who was at the after party, who's worked with the producers, directors, or whatever of this show. And so there's probably no one better than to ask. So today is a conversation with Jeff Nuccetelli. Now, Jeff is an awesome dude. He's a friend of mine. He's been on the podcast quite a few times, so you should know who he is. But if you don't, he's was a patrolman who was at the Vandenberg UFO incident, the massive Red Square. He's been on the Merge podcast. He's been on this podcast, and his case was brought up at Congress. So, a real big, important piece of the puzzle here. So before I play you the podcast that I did with Jeff Nuccetelli, I'm just going to show you the trailer, which is pretty cool. So we'll watch the trailer and then we'll jump into our conversation with Jeff Nuccetelli.
The American people are ready to receive the truth.
Humanity is not the only intelligence in the universe.
Humanity is not the only intelligent species.
We are absolutely not alone.
Non-human intelligence exists.
UAPs are real. They're here, and they're not human. I spent 25 years as a senior official with the CIA.
I worked on highly classified UAP programs.
28 years as an astrophysicist.
I served as the 4th Director of National Intelligence.
Director of Aviation Security in the National Security Council.
A one-star admiral after 32 years of service.
People that come forward with this, I feel like they've taken their life in their own hands.
I was recruited to a highly sensitive government program that investigated unidentified aerial phenomenon.
For over 16 years, on behalf of the U.S. government, I worked as a senior intelligence official on the unidentified aerial phenomenon topic.
We learned that the U.S. government was involved in a long-running secret war with other nations to collect and reverse engineer vehicles not made by humans.
I have seen with my own eyes non-human craft and non-human beings.
So look at that thing. It's rotating. There's a whole fleet of them.
The first country that cracks the code on this technology will be the leader for years to come.
China has established its own version of a UAP task force.
You think for a second that they wouldn't consider using it to achieve their ends of domination?
This is similar to the Manhattan Project. This is the atomic weapon on steroids.
This is so secret, very, very few people in our entire government have been allowed access to it.
Even presidents have been operating on a need-to-know basis, but that begins to ramp out of control.
It's not acceptable to have secret parts of government that no one ever sees.
You better be careful about a government that doesn't trust its people. because there's no telling what they'll pull on you.
This is the biggest discovery in human history.
You had information being locked away that could change the trajectory for species.
It has so many beneficial impacts, including clean energy.
We should have disclosure today. We should have disclosure tomorrow. The time has come.
What else you want to know?
Dan Farah reached out to me well over a year ago, probably right after the hearings. I think he became aware of the case, and he knew some people that knew me, and they connected us. And he was in that point, it was all secret, and he was trying to put the funding together, and he had already been working on it for like a year before I met him. And we talked about the case, and I introduced him to some of the other people that were at Vandenberg, and showed him some of the documentation I could show him, and he was like, "This is an incredible story. I wanted to include it." And I was like, "I'm all yours, man." So yeah, he invited me in, and eventually, like making these movies is really complicated, especially, you're dealing with people that are located all over the country and scheduling and everything. So it took a while, but eventually he set up a meeting for me and one of the other witnesses, my buddy Chaz, who is also in the movie. And he was able to fly Chaz out to DC. I drove down, and we filmed in DC, and filmed for I think probably at least an hour. I was, filming, and my buddy too. And we got to meet some of the other people that were in the movie there while we were filming. Some of the congressmen were there. I got to, talk to them, shake their hand. That was, amazing. So we filmed actually in the Capitol. So yeah, that's how I got involved. He brought me in, and then, him and his other producer, Colin, they're just like amazing people. And they actually, when they were doing the graphics that'll be in the movie where they show a representation of the event, Dan invited me. So we jumped on a call. I got to sit with the other producers online and with the graphic animator. And I got to like help them kind of, give input and
awesome.
And help put the scene together. So that was like amazing, So yeah, that's how I got involved. He saw the case come up in the hearing and sounded like interesting, and we met, and then it's all history from there.
Yeah, sounds incredible. So there's a lot of big names. Some people that have never been on camera before.
Yeah.
I understand, certainly not necessarily they've been on camera before. I mean, not necessarily talking about this subject or what they know or what they, their take on things. And there's from the names that have been mentioned, and if it's a case that you'd prefer it until it was released that you didn't say it, but just are there other names that haven't been released publicly of people that are in the film that
there are people that I had never heard of before, never seen any or heard anything about their stories that are in the film. So I got to meet all those people at the premiere and hear a little bit about their stories. And there are other, active duty military or intelligence people that had encounters, So I think people would be really excited to hear about those encounters too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, there's going to be new faces in the movie for sure.
Yeah, I think it's got, 34 interviews. I think Dan was saying in some of the press stuff that he's been doing, which is, that's a lot of people. When you put a lot of super top level, super credible people would have been in a position to know this stuff in one film, that's got to have a huge impact. Really, huge impact.
Yeah, for people that are aware of the gravity of the situation, a lot of people, I don't think they don't see the full picture of how important these people are, and the positions they held and what they did for the government. It's astounding that they actually had the courage to come out and put their reputations on the line for it, because, like people like General Clapper, he's publicly, everyone knows he's in the film now. I think he's in the trailer.
Yeah, yeah.
And some people don't realize how big of a deal that really is, to have somebody with his background and the positions he held in the Air Force and in the government and in the intelligence community coming out and talking about it. I mean, it's a big deal. These are not just some random person. These are people with, that are movers and shakers in the world stage. And they're coming out and they're saying, we need to take this seriously. This is real. This is happening,
Yeah.
So I hope that sinks in. I hope the people watch the movie and they really get a sense of how seriously the government is taking all of this behind the scenes. It might be the most important thing they're dealing with, and it's being downplayed. And I'm hoping that's what people take away from the movie. It's like, wow, this is real. It's being taken incredibly seriously behind the scenes by the FBI, the CIA, on, and we need some answers.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
What was the atmosphere like at the theatre? So this was the XSSW. I'm not sure what that stands for, if I'm honest. But
South by Southwest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What was it like there then? What was the atmosphere like? I mean, we saw some of the sort of photos outside of people going in. It's just the who's who of top names, all these people. What was it like?
It was incredible, man. It was an amazing experience. The atmosphere. I mean, the crowd. There was quite a big crowd there. Just watching, trying to, see who was in the film or whatever they could get. The crowd was super excited, super nice people. Everybody was friendly and polite. And then the people in the film, it was just, I got starstruck quite a few times where it's like speechless, because I've been following these people for, years and then to be in the room with all of them at one time was a bit overwhelming. It's like, oh my God, like everybody is here all at one time. So the atmosphere was amazing. Everybody was really friendly and gracious with their time and willing to talk to everyone, even people in the crowd and people like me. And I got to meet a lot of people that I've been wanting to meet forever and, shake their hand, look them in the eye and thank them for everything they're doing. So yeah, it was a great atmosphere. It was just wonderful, and the theater's historic too. So that was a big deal. But yeah, it was amazing, man. Austin is a cool town too.
Yeah, it seems to be like a real happening place, isn't it? I know that lots of people are moving to Austin and I hear a lot about it.
Yeah.
Thanks to people like Joe Rogan as well, I suppose, because
he's out there now, and a lot of the tech companies are moving out there. Tesla's out there now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Awesome. So what was were there any sort of speeches at all? Did they, did people come up on stage and was it straight to show?
Yeah, they did after the film premiered. They brought everybody, the red carpet folks up on stage, like Hal Puthoff and Gary Nolan and on and on. I think Dave Fravor was up there. And they did a Q&A. I think a lot of that's posted online.
Yeah.
People were getting in trouble for, they had their cameras out and filming, and people were trying to leak. People were actually trying to leak on Twitter as it was happening. Really? So that was a little entertaining because they figured it out really quick. They're like, we know somebody is videoing and we know who you are, and you're not going to be invited back to South by Southwest. So please, put the cameras down. But that was only a couple of people. But yeah, they did a Q&A. I think they're all online. Really good questions, really good answers from everyone. Jay Stratton was up there, I remember, and Eric Davis came up too. But South by Southwest, they have a lot of rules about who can be on what carpet and what stage at what time. So a lot of other people wanted to go up and talk, and the crowd wanted to ask questions, but the organization is very strict, about how many people are allowed to speak and all that.
Right.
So that was a little disappointing that all these rules were kind of getting in the way, but overall it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw some photos of like an after party. I don't know if you're allowed to talk about it or if it's not the done thing or if you signed an NDA or something like that. I don't know. But what can you tell us anything about that? I mean, it looked like everybody was in, not everybody, but everybody that we know, that we've
Yeah.
seen on screen. All of these real huge names were all sort of in someone's living room. That was quite an exciting photograph.
Yeah, it was actually a bar and a hotel right outside of the theater. So yeah, we were invited there, and yeah, everybody was there. They had drinks and food. So that's where I got to meet. I really got to talk to. So I had met a bunch of people like when we were near the red carpet, and shook their hands, and at the night before the premiere, we were invited to Ernie Cline's house. Ernie Cline is the author of Ready Player One. So that's kind of what kicked it off, and that was amazing. So everybody was at Ernie's house, and I got to meet him, and we got to explore his incredible man cave. He has two DeLoreans from Back to the Future in his garage, decked out. And just, he has like the ultimate like nerd man cave. So got to meet him, incredibly great guy, generous. Everybody was wonderful. And then, yeah, the after party, everybody was there just socializing. So I spent a lot of time with Bob Jacobs and his wife. And they're just amazing people. His wife is lovely. And I got to talk quite a bit with Bob and about his encounter. And I got, to hear some really compelling information from him about the incident and about his experience with Arrow and Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, which was not very fun for Bob. And then some of the other evidence that we're hoping will come out. So there is evidence. We have very good authority that the video does exist. Wow. People that you and I both know have allegedly viewed that footage. They've watched the UFO show up and shoot down the dummy warhead. So that got me really excited. It's like, hopefully Bob and his story can be vindicated someday if the government decides to ever let us know the truth. So there was a lot of that. I got to talk to some people that I hadn't met, and then some of my other friends were there, like Mark Van Redenkamp was there. He's just an amazing human being. Got to chat with him a bit. So it's just on and on. Like it was just the who's who of UFO land.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun, isn't it? Because we spend so much time, and I say we, people that are interested in the subject and they, watch the podcast or maybe content creators or whatever. But they're like you are, like almost our celebrities. I know it's not the best word to use, but it's like we want to see these characters on our screens. We want to know what's happening. We want to know what's going on in your lives. We want to know what the next thing is, and it's exciting. It's like you and other people that are in this film are like on. It's almost like battling the disclosure subject on our behalf, and we're watching it on screen. It sounds really strange. It's almost like reducing it to a cartoon show or something. But it's like, because it feels like we haven't got the power to push this stuff forward and to get the information out and to go and find these videos from deep within the government and get it out, and all these people that would have been in a position to know. Somebody's got to do it for us. And then when we get people like yourself, and we get people like Lou Elizondo and people like Jay Stratton and others, and people like Dan Farah putting it all together, and they're doing it for us on our behalf, it just feels incredible, because now it's like we've got some powerful people on our side for a change. And that feels incredible, and we want to see it more and more. And I think that's why, that's how I feel. It might sound strange. I don't know if other people.
No, I feel the same way. I mean, if without, films like that and people that are willing to come together and put their reputations on the line, we're kind of just like floating in the water without a boat, without something like that. We need a core cadre of people that are insiders that have come out. And, there are strength in numbers. And, we've got this united front now. It's like you have to prove that these people are lying now.
Yeah.
James Clapper and Marco Rubio and all these, Tim Burchett, and, they're serious people doing serious work in positions of power, and they're not going to waste time on grifting. They have better things to do. So there's definitely power in the movement right now. And it's really something like, you watch these people for years on podcasts and interviews and things, but standing face to face and shaking their hand and looking them in the eye, you get a sense of like who they really are, and we're in good company. Like, I got to meet Jay Stratton, I got to meet Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp, and on, Hal Puthoff, and everyone that was there. I got to stand there and shake their hand and talk to them and look at them in the eye, and you get a sense of what kind of person they are. And I'm confident that we have good people on our side.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, it's exciting. Was there any indication of when it might be released, sort of publicly to everybody, when we might get a sight of it?
No, I haven't heard anything. The way it kind of works is the movie will premiere, and then there's sort of the bidding that happens. Who wants, to put it on their platform? I know that Dan, his intent has always been to get it into a theatrical release, like like a regular movie, like the Avengers or whatever. Put it in theaters nationwide. So I know that he's working with that in mind. And then all the other platforms, Netflix and on, that might want to basically bid on it and put it on their platform. So I don't know where he's at in that, what stage that's in right now. So hopefully soon.
Yeah. Okay.
But I don't have any information, no.
Exciting. Yeah, because it does feel like it's going to push the envelope forward and have a really positive impact on not just people that are interested in the subject, but people that perhaps haven't had an interest in the subject for a long time, or like a real subtle interest, or people that perhaps don't even think about it at all. But it will come up and it'll be, okay, that's interesting. I'll see the trailer. I'll watch that, and then you see all of these people for the first time. And even for us, and we're quite deep into the subject, it still feels exciting. It's like, there's all of these new people, that really credible people, and they're saying the same thing. And you've now got to, as you say, you've now got to disprove these people, which you're going to find it really difficult to do. So that adds to the, the strength of this case. And that's for us. So when there's somebody else coming in, completely fresh, looking at this going, Jesus, all of these people in these positions. Wow. I think that'll have such a fantastic impact. So I'm really keen for it to get released as soon as possible, really.
Yeah, the film is sort of geared for like my family. Like I just spent the weekend with my family. My dad came up from Florida, and we all got together, and I'm talking about this stuff a little because they all know I'm involved. But for them, they need a movie like Age of Disclosure because they don't know who I'm talking. They don't know these people. It's like, do you know who General Clapper is? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, he's involved. And they're like, what? Yeah. So it's really for people like my family that they're open-minded to it. My father had, he saw the Kecksburg fireball, and my grandmother on the other side, they saw UFO land. So it's all there. But, for just average people, they need sort of this like coherent, like narrative walkout of what's going on, who's involved, what the government has been doing or hasn't been doing. And, I think it'll go a long way for just your regular folks that are busy with life and they don't have time to delve into this and pay attention. It'll be really good for them.
Yeah, superb. Awesome.
Yeah.
Exciting. Nice one. Okay, Jeff, thanks so much for talking to me, and it's really good to have a good catch up as well. Always
anytime. And there's a bunch of new stuff coming out. I don't know if you know about the San Francisco UAP hackathon happening next weekend. So yeah, that's his name is Deep Prasad. He's a entrepreneur, and he's basically a genius that is working on the technical aspect of this. So they're holding a hackathon. They're going to have programmers come, and they're going to try to come up with solutions, technological solutions, and artificial intelligence and things like that, to start proving, that there are things in our skies and oceans and space, and start to move the scientific needle forward with data. So I've been invited to that as a speaker. So I'll be there in San Francisco this coming weekend, trying to give them some support, and really exciting. There's a lot of new initiatives coming out. So
yeah, there is, isn't there? I mean, it's exciting. I didn't know about that. I'm going to look into that right now. That's awesome. Nice one. Well, keep us updated, man, and that'll be an interesting.
Yeah, we'll talk when I get back from that one. So
yeah,
I'm
definitely
waiting to see what it's all about. The tech world is now involved, and that's good.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Nice one, Jeff. Take care of yourself.
All right, you too, Jimmy. Thank
Cheers,
you.
man. Bye now.